focus. This you'll need if you are starting your career focus. If you are in high school or in college, come and hear the skills, the roles and goals you need to know to keep yourself focused. Best believe it, you gon' need it. Career focus. Career focus.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new exciting episode of Career Focus, part of Influential Future. So this is where we are kicking off a new format for the series where I'll be speaking to people who have actually worked in a corporate environment and actually moved on from that, starting their own businesses. And in this first episode, I'm actually speaking to a founder called Beatrice Zatorska. She has a lot of experience in the corporate world. And then at some point, she decided it's something that she wants to move on. And then she joined Antler. So to start the series, hello, Beatrice. Thank you for taking the time.
Hi, Alex. Nice to see you again.
So let me start with the first question. So obviously, you've had a very successful career in the corporate world. And then at some point, you decide to join Antler as part of the cohort in 2019. What made you do that? And what did you learn along the journey?
I think it has been, I was management consultant for over 20 years, for about 20 years when I joined Antler. And if there are some management consultants listening to us, they probably resonate what I'm going to say, that at some point, you cannot do this all your life. You want to do something different, right? We travel the world very often and we jump from project to project. We work for different companies. It's great. I had so much fun. But at some point you want to do something different. And becoming a founder, doing your own business, it's very often comes either as an opportunity came along, and jumping from a project as a management consultant, you meet someone. And that's what happened with me. I met someone as a scientist who I thought I could do something interesting with technology, because I specialized in my previous jobs in the corporate work, very often commercializing scientific research for companies, but also solving problems with new technologies. That's what I focused on across different industries. So I met a lot of people, interesting ideas, and we were solving problems for corporate world with a new technology. And at some point, I thought, we can turn this into a company. Especially, we had some clients, so that was one thing. Also, I had some experience. My previous company asked me to set up offices in Warsaw and Moscow. So I had a few years setting up offices, building company from the scratch. It was a little bit safe net because it was, paid by a corporate, so I didn't have to worry about, funding. Nevertheless, it was really first that experience about building a team, becoming manager, and so on. Although you resell an existing product, but learning about customers. So I think my career in corporate world was really helpful. And unhelpful as well, because once you jump to the entrepreneurship, you realize whatever you learn sometimes, especially in terms of management, it's not very much helpful in terms of the working in a startup world. And I joined Antler after my experience with the first startup I started. It wasn't in the UK, it was in Europe, with another scientist. We exited very quickly. So I got a little bit of experience, but it was not my best experience. Although we exit, it wasn't best experience. We actually hated each other, so that's why we had to stop quite abruptly. And then I had this idea, how I could. I was really thinking how I could kind of make it scale my abilities to finding good solutions coming from new technologies or from scientific research and provide to companies, because I was doing this manually all over the world, and I met amazing people across the world, researchers. I said, how can I scale it? How I can centralize that, And that's where the idea for Smart Tribe came, and I thought, and then I saw by coincidence the ads Antler. This was the first cohort in London in 2019, right? It's a long time ago now. and I applied for it. And honestly, I didn't apply for it thinking I'm gonna to learn something. I was arrogant, like many people coming from the corporate world, thinking, well, I've done so much projects, I have so much experience, I can do it. Honestly, I was attracted by the money because they were giving £80,000 as an investment into your project. So that was my reason for joining Antler. But then when I joined it, I realized, learning along the way, this is a very different world. And thank God I did it. By the way, I really recommend the Antler, the whole, how do you call it? Not the incubator or whatever you call it. It's a really good program. And I realized that person coming from the corporate world, the dynamics of doing a startup is entirely different. I had to scrap all my thinking, relearn so many things. Some skills really came handy, and I appreciate. And still, when some very young founders in particular come along to me and ask questions, I said, go to big companies, get this experience, matured a little bit, learn how to work with people, especially with customers, because those kind of skills will become useful. However, how to manage startup, how to build a startup, compare how to work in corporation, it's very, very different skills. So Antler has been great experience. I have learned absolutely a lot, from doing the MVP to pitching to investors, all the different dynamics, what is market fit, everything. It was really eye-opening, especially, and also kind of prioritize and learn all these milestones, how to build a company, startups, because it could be overwhelming for someone who is just entering this world. There's so many buzzwords, so many abbreviations, so many people talking the jargon, and it's like, wow, what's going on? So Antler was really good because it really helped me to kind of understand all these dynamics and test it as well. And in the end, they gave the money as well.
No, it's very interesting. I mean, I've heard it from other people we've spoken to, obviously not on this podcast because the format is now different, but basically I've heard from other people that there's a lot of transferable skills, but at the end of the day, when you're in a startup, you have to figure things out on your own because you're starting from scratch, basically. Yeah. So that brings a lot of very true in your statements, basically, that you had to figure a lot of things out, even though you have so much experience in the corporate world, you had to figure things out from scratch. So that makes a lot of sense. And obviously you mentioned your first idea was Smart Tribe, but now obviously we're here to talk about your new company, PDBuddy. Can you tell us about the founding story of PDBuddy and what inspired you to do it?
So PDBuddy is an app for people with Parkinson's and their caregivers. And also going forward, we are doing for the whole medical world within the space. And my plans is to scale it later for other neurological diseases. The reason why I looked into it is because my husband has been diagnosed 5 years ago with Parkinson's disease. So by default, we learned a lot about it. And what I do, as always, I look up in the Google Scholar and see what is going on. Now, when we went for the diagnosis, where experience was terrible, we met with a neurologist who told us, you're not going to die from it, but you're going to die with it. And in the next 5 years, he predicted that my husband is going to be immobile. We need help with absolutely everything, and there is no cure. And he just bought tons of prescriptions. So we kind of turned around and said, wait a second, really? Makes you angry, this kind of diagnosis? So we search and search, and we realized that actually it's not exactly true, that there is tons of research proving that you can live with Parkinson's and can live well, but you have to follow certain lifestyle. And the lifestyle is many, it's not something new, but people still don't do it, especially when they are older. It's exercising, special diet, meditation, brain exercises, hands exercises. It's a whole range of things you have to do to take care of yourself in order to manage your symptoms and slow down progression. And actually, with my husband, now 5 years old, we're supposed to be mobile, but he is super sporty. We go, hiking and everything, travel the world. So he's doing nowhere near what the neurologist was saying. So that was the reason. And so we designed a program for him. We have spoken to lots of researchers around the world, which was easy for me because it was kind of part of my job previously anyway. Different experts, different opinions, really around the world. We discovered step by step how to manage the symptoms. And we wrote a program, which he is following right now every single day. It takes a few hours per day, but the results are amazing. There's only, I don't know, maybe 5% of people in the world with Parkinson's who actually are doing this, which is shocking. Most of the people are just relying on medications, which are really strong medications. They were developed in the 1960s. Since then, there's been no breakthrough, and this includes Alzheimer's as well. But there have been lots of research done over especially the last 20 years, proving the point. Yes, you can manage and live well with Parkinson's. So we designed this program with a lot of other experts. So it's based on science, on facts. And then my husband said, well, how can you do something for me? Even like Excel or whatever, where I can follow that program every day. And I said, well, why don't I do it in a mobile app? So it really helped him to make notes. Also, I start adding, certain tools for him to better manage Parkinson's and to live better with Parkinson's. And then I start adding tools, which also helps me as his caregiver. And then some of his friends, who he made through Parkinson Network, said, well, can we use it? And I said, okay. So I turned this into proper mobile app and just give it to everyone to use it. And now, since I launched in January this year, we are reaching 5,000 users globally, many UK and the US using it right now.
That's amazing. I've also looked at some of the statements from people, and it's all very positive. They found the app very, very interesting and obviously life-saving for some people because, like you said, it's a very difficult disease to live with. And obviously, the fact that from your journey and experience, you've built something as an app, it's quite amazing.
Yes. I mean, nowadays there's so many great tools and technologies which help you to make this happen. I think even 5 years ago, I wouldn't be able to, but now it's all this non-code industry, you can make things happen so much easier and cheaper and faster.
Exactly. And when it comes to building something from an idea to a product and a project, obviously, how did you go about financing the idea basically in the beginning? Was it self-funded or how did you approach it?
So I went through my career as an entrepreneur, because this is my third company, through different stages of financing. And, so this one, yes, it is self-finance and a little bit of grants. And right now, I'm getting money from the customers, which is the bootstrapping with customers, which is the most ideal way. I am in touch with different investors, but I'm leaving this when the company is more mature and will be scaling into different neurological diseases. Okay, but I think I'm still a long way before that's going to happen, or at least a few months or another year, because I really have a lot of work to do with this Parkinson's app. But previously, yes, I went through the route of being supported by VCs, and that's a totally different game. I don't advise people to do it so early in their career, or when the company is really young, because then the pressure is very different. You are in a constant cycle of constantly raising money, and then you have to spend that money quickly to raise more. It's a very different mindset. I really like working previously with angel investors. Private individuals are more attached to your project. They give very often good advice. Often it's a personal thing for them as well. So yes, angel investor was great experience, especially in the UK, where we have the SEIS scheme for angel investors. VC is very different dynamics. Also in the UK, I think if somebody listens in the US, have a different experience, because in the US, I believe there's a lot of VCs where the investors have founders experience. In the UK, it's not the case. For many VCs in the UK, it's still theory. Although there are still some good guys here as well, obviously, right? But it's a very different environment. Grants is another route for the financing. In the UK here, we have this Innovate UK, very hard to get, super bureaucratic, and then once you get it, it's just a nightmare to deal with. But there are some other ways of getting grants through specialized charities or organizations. Yes, but for PDBuddy, I have this. I was able to afford it to start it by myself, mainly because I was doing many things by myself. I'm still doing most of the things by myself. And so yes, I invested myself to start with, and now the bills are being paid by the customers.
No, that's amazing. And obviously, I've read a lot about grants. Yes, they do give you funding, but particularly in the UK, at least my research shows that it's quite limited compared to what you can get, for example, in the European Union, because the European Union obviously is trying to compete with what the US has, and they've actually created a lot of different grants in different subject areas that are a bit more specific and actually larger in scale. But I've heard from other people as well that the VC industry is completely different in Europe compared to the US. US is much more about risk taking, whilst in Europe it's more like risk averse, a little bit in a way.
It's very much, yes, UK is risk averse. I think we have, especially everything is London focused, right? And city, the financial industries are very strong in the UK, and a lot of people in this industry come from financial services, so they are by default risk averse. It's a very different mindset and approach. Yeah,
exactly. So obviously, let's talk about PDBuddy. Could you tell us more about the PDBuddy ambassador program?
Oh, it's something very simple. Many brands and companies have ambassador program when you find you super fans who love what you do so much, and then they want to help you. So the ambassador program, it's the community of people with Parkinson's and caregivers is amazing, and it's actually not just old people. This Parkinson's disease is the fastest growing neurological disease in the world. It's growing every year by 18%.
Wow.
And more younger people, I mean, people in their 40s or even 30s are getting it. So the image of old person who is shaking, it's a little bit changing now when it comes to Parkinson's. Nevertheless, there's a lot of people who are older and retired, and they're getting involved with the community. They are amazing people, absolutely amazing, because it's so personal. The whole family is involved. People do a lot of attending a lot of charity events, and they want to give back to the community. The amount of kindness I have never come across anywhere else. So people come and they give them some purpose as well, keep them busy, and give them also, the social aspect is very important. Lack of social interaction and loneliness is number one reason why the disease is progressing really fast for some people. So the ambassador program is a little bit also self-healing process for them. They go getting out, they have a reason to get out and spread the word about people, about the app, also help each other outdo. So this is the basic right now, where people in different communities in the UK and in the US go and talk about PDBuddy and show it how to use it and explain everything. And then I do really want to expand this program later to a little bit people helping each other as well.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, the amount of support we've received from this particular app, it's amazing. Some of the statements people have made, it's incredible. And can you tell us a little bit about the challenges you faced? Because obviously every startup or idea faces challenges coming from the concept process to actually developing it into a viable business. So obviously, operationally wise, how did you approach it?
So it has been like every other business. It's it's ups and downs all the time. Now we say that being a founder is living the roller coaster life. It truly is. Some people think like, oh, I like that. I like roller coaster. I was just like, no, seriously. It's like within one day you have ups and downs. You have like you wake up and suddenly the app crashes and people complain, or some of the software which you connected to it just drops, and one of your feature which people use every day, because I have some features which people have to complete every day or use every day for their life, like pills reminders, symptom trackers, the routine, they collect points, and something they compete, so something doesn't work and it's just total panic. And then you struggle with this, you cannot fix it, and then a few hours later you get feedback from someone who loves the app and gives you such a nice feedback. So it's constantly ups and downs. I think the biggest challenge was technical challenge. I don't have a co-founder. I'm doing this on my own, and I decided to learn how to build an app. So I was not a technical person. I don't know how to code, and I used a no-code platform. So I think this was the biggest challenge to do that. I had some help, but honestly, within 1 year, I worked with 7 different people, and I had to fire each one of them because it was just terrible. So finding really good person who you can collaborate with. With technical background, as a developer, it was really, really hard to find, because I had to look for freelancers. I think all the good people actually work in the good companies, so it's really hard to find someone. Eventually, now I have someone I work with. She helps me. Amazing woman. She's not just good, amazing developer, but also now the UX and so on. So that's the one. For me, this was a bigger challenge. Obviously, if you start your business, make sure you can afford it, right? Unless you live in the heart of Silicon Valley where the money flows. But here in the UK, you need to have, you're not going to make big money from day one as an entrepreneur, right? You have to have a good financial kind of backup. And some people overestimate that. I met founders who just, didn't realize how long it takes, how much it takes, of their space. And if you have a family or a young family as well, and they rely on you, that's really, really tough. So that was, so to start with, I wasn't sure for how long I'm going to be financing, right? So this was a challenge, and it took me a year before I got the market fit. It really, and this was a year of constant experimenting and testing, not building something very quickly, giving to people to use it, test it. I had 100 people who were testing with me. So it took me a year, and this year, I'm telling you, Alex, it was really ups and downs, and very often you're just so close to give up because something doesn't work, or people don't use it, or using once and they give up. So, stick to your guns, be patient. One day, it's one step. So that was hard the first year. Now it's much better because there's many people, and so first you have to figure out to acquire those customers. This is first challenge, right? Once you have these customers, you have to make sure they are using your product and using often. So is the retention, next thing. So it's constantly, now I'm working on a next challenge. So it's constant challenges you have to take. But the most difficult ones for me were technical, finding some good tech person to work with, and overcome these challenges, and get the market fit. And once you get that, you really, really make a good progress.
No, exactly. And obviously, when you're obviously starting something new, you have to be very tenacious, very determined, not to give up. I think a lot of people underestimated that. They think, oh, there will be no issues, but obviously from your experience, it seems like you have the main topic is basically you have to be main qualities, you have to be very persistent and tenacious to make it a success, because with any new venture, it takes time to build the network, it takes time to build the business as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are being pulled also in a different direction. You know, there's so many people, and especially once you're becoming more visible, a little bit more successful, there's a lot of people who want a piece of you or your company. You know, there's how many people from corporate world coming and say, I want to be advisor. My advice to entrepreneurs, don't waste your time on people from the corporate world who want to be advised, unless they have access to customers or they can give you money.
Exactly.
But otherwise, there's a lot of people from the industry thinking, oh, I have like 40 years, I'm retired now, or I'm about to, let me put something to my CV to be advisor to a startup. Like, no, don't do it. You know, there's a lot of, you know, marketing companies, PR companies, or whatever, you know, the other developers, everybody wants your attention. So you have to be really laser focused on what you're doing, and don't waste your time on other things which are not important at this stage of your company. Yeah.
That's a very good advice. And
I mean, one thing which, you know, this is my experience from PDBuddy, but experience maybe from my previous two companies, you know, it's the other thing which is very important. Don't hire too senior people to start with, and don't pay, you know, at the very early stage of a company. I think this was our a little bit mistake when we did Smart Tribe as well. We paid too much attention to professionals and rely on them how to do things, especially marketing. I mean, in the early stages, you know, we spent with my co-founder one day on choosing colors, brand colors for the company. I mean, how stupid was that? It's you don't need that. You really do yourself as much as possible. And although micromanagement is not my style, at the early stage of company, it's actually a good thing, because if you give other people, even they are talented, even they have tons of experience, but if you just rely on them to do something, they will run your company down to the ground.
I think, yeah, that's a very good advice. And I think a lot of people find this very helpful, especially because the sort of competing schools, how you should run your company in the early stages. And obviously from your perspective, it's nice to hear what's your view and what's your experience. And I think a lot of people find that very helpful. So obviously, because the app is in the health space, what trends are you seeing in the health space? How things are evolving in that area, and what do you think is happening currently in that environment?
I mean, health space is such a big space, right? I can talk only about Parkinson's or the neuro diseases and a neurological disease. So this is interesting. For other space which is close to it or entangled with it is the aging. I think this is what it's called, aging. It's not about, you know, living forever, but it's about living healthy for a long time, you know, because being older is actually a long time. So 20, 30, 40 years, you can be on the retirement or in the later stage in your life. So you want to spend the time healthy. So that's what very interests me right now. And I'm in this kind of space. What is interesting, I think the personalization of medications, of treatments, that's very interesting. And another one, it's obviously machine learning AI is helping a lot to speed up the process of finding cures, hopefully, for those diseases, or even better treatments. And other thing, I would say the patient being in control more because of the access to information is much easier right now. The exchange of information, you don't just rely on your doctor, right? You learn about your disease. You many people taking, you know, ownership of their illness, and they want to manage it, not just rely on the prescriptions. So I think those three things really what I can see right now.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And how you see the health space evolving. Obviously, we couldn't be here without talking about new technology and how it's actually impacting developing the apps. And obviously, he hinted a little bit that you went with a no-coding solution because you're not a coder. How do you finding the new environment where they have all these powerful tools on the market like ChatGPT and others that actually changing the way people think about technology and how it's being utilized? Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, and how it actually helped you with your company?
For founders, it's amazing. It's incredible. I am able to do so many things much faster because of those tools. It's great, and it's just amazing that they are becoming available so quickly and changing so fast. So sometimes it's very difficult to keep up with all of this. Even 5 years ago, I would do things so differently if I had the tools I have right now, and it's only 5 years, right? So it's a game changing. Really, we have so much. The fact that the no coding culture the tools we have. I'm using, for example, Flutterflow right now. You can do it within really a week, almost, a mobile app with all these very simple tools. ChatGPT, yes, of course. I'm not a coder, but if I need something, ChatGPT tells me to write this code, right, or do some marketing. Especially in the early stage of companies, you don't need marketeers. You have ChatGPT, does everything for you. So many, amazing tools already available and coming up. Also you can plug into your platforms, your apps, or whatever you are building. I have connected ChatGPT to PDBuddy as well, so people can when they input their symptoms every day, they get immediately kind of advice, bespoke advice from the AI assistant or nurse. How can you manage better the symptoms? Right now, I'm playing with a tool where people can do some brain exercises through it. It's amazing. I love it. It's just difficult to kind of to see, to be aware of all those tools, and all this environment, culture of developers, of entrepreneurs is really nice. All these chat groups, WhatsApp, Slack, Discord, they are so useful because we learn from each other. And I really, really like it, And so I've been so many 19 years old helping me to solve problems, I really appreciate it, and I like it. When I started my career so many years ago in the corporate world, it was very different mindset. It was more competitive, just to yourself, and now it's far more collaborative approach. I quite like it.
No, that's very good to hear that new technology is actually helping people build things much quicker and faster, and obviously expanding your skill set on a different scale. I think that's quite useful. I also find them quite useful as well because, like you said, they actually allow you to access information much more quicker, because before, yes, obviously you have other tools before that, like search engines, but they're not very efficient because you still have to go through the different pages to find relevant information. With this type of tools, the relevant information is coming immediately as long as you ask the right questions. So I find it extremely helpful. And obviously, you mentioned that because of your experience with already 3 different startups, you tend to learn what works, what doesn't. How would you describe how your leadership style has evolved over time with that experience?
You mean my leadership?
Yes. Yes.
That's in the startup world is very different than the corporate world. In the corporate world, the leadership really matters, right? And it's important because if you are a manager, you have people reporting to you, and so on, so on. In startups, the leadership, it's you making sure you don't run the company to the ground, right? You make sure you have enough money in the runway. It's like almost every day you're doing something different. You're wearing different hats every day. So one day you're a marketeer, the next day you are fundraising, in the evening you are coding. it's very difficult to be thinking about leadership in this kind of environment. Once the company evolves and you have a few people, that's a little bit different. And but you can still afford to be, entrepreneur, doing everything with everyone, get involved with everything. And really, based on this is my experience, right? Do get involved with everything. Don't let people just do everything by themselves. Get involved. Micromanagement in the big companies, it's not good, but in a small company, yes, it is. I really learned the hard way that it's so important, because otherwise people will run company to the ground. But when a company grows and you have more people, don't hire too many experienced managers at the beginning, but more junior people who will evolve with you. And that was my experience in the companies. We hired, younger people, and they were great. They were growing together with the company. They were also entrepreneurial, figure out things as it goes. So this was the whole spirit of the company, right? That people who are more managers and coming strictly from the corporate world, they have different expectations. They want more structure, more predictability. In a startup, it's not like that. You're experimenting all the time. You're changing things all the time. It's don't invest too much in big marketing campaigns and so on to start with, because it's going to be different product next day. So that's very different dynamics. That's why difficult is to talk about leadership in a startup. Once you have a few people, it's a little bit different. You're starting to building the relationship, but still you can afford to be very close to everyone and get involved together to work with them really closely. And honestly, this is the nicest part of building a startup. It's fun, it's creative. Obviously, you worry all the time about everything, about the product, about your customers, about your investors, and so on. But still, I think this is one of the most the nicest parts of building a company.
No, of course, 100%. And maybe final two questions. Sorry, it will be combined two questions. So, what would you say to aspiring entrepreneurs? What they should be looking to when they start their own business? What advice would you give somebody who wants to do that? And any useful lessons that people might find helpful?
I would, make sure you are in the right place in life to do this.
Mm-hmm.
People overestimate this and then they get burned. So make sure you are financially stable, both also your family. It's okay with this. If you have to move, if you have to do some financial sacrifices, then it's a big pressure on your family as well. It takes a lot of your time. You have to work all the time. I do believe if you want to make a successful company, you have to be really obsessed with it. Very often when we do a startup, it's something because we want to solve a problem, or it's a personal matter, or it's an opportunity because we met someone. So we are already passionate about it. So continue to be passionate about it. Stick to your guns. Do not give up too quickly. There are going to be days when you really think, no, it doesn't work. Go for a walk. Take a couple of days off and start all over and start again. I had really moments like this. I remember when I used the first platform for PDBuddy, the first tool, the no-code tool, where I was building the app, was so bad. The phone was heated, it was so hot, was crashing every 2 minutes. It was a disaster, and I was so close. I said, no, I can't do this. And just like take a breath, think about it again. Do not give up too quickly. Don't be pulled into different directions by others because people want your attention. Don't get distracted. A few months ago, this summer actually, I was really there was some company, they have for startups some initiatives, and they're giving awards, and they were like really, really trying to persuade me to take part in this. And the awards were some tokens for PR, marketing companies, and whatever. I was like, I don't want your awards. This all awards at my stage. This is all distractions. I really don't need it right now. I need cash, not customers. So be focused, laser focused on this. A lot of people will have something to say, and then everybody has opinion about how to run a company. It's amazing. Most of those advice will be bad advice. Okay. I'm not saying just listen to yourself, listen to others, but be careful, because many people just have bad advice, especially those who have never done it. The people who you do spend time talking to are other founders. I was really fortunate. A few years ago, I had an amazing mentor. Sadly, he passed away a few months ago, cancer. He was a founder who built a unicorn, and he was so kind, giving me his time of coaching, always giving good advice. But any other founder to team up with or listen to, it's really, really useful, because they really understand you, what is your problem. And sometimes just simple advice, or what tool you're using to solve this problem, to actually being coached by someone. So that's just really good to network with other founders, but be careful listening to other people's advice. And that includes investors, especially also from VCs, because many of them, they have templates, they've done it with other companies, and they think it will work with yours. It might, but very often doesn't, because it might be solving similar problem, but the time maybe is different, or the customers are different. So be careful with all those people who want your time and want to give you advice. Experiment. I think experimenting is super, super important. Don't build your beautiful product and then wait and give it to your customers. No, just build something very quickly, the MVP, and doesn't have to be pretty. I mean, you cannot be ashamed of it, but still something very quickly, give it to people to try it and see how they work with. Many young entrepreneurs who are very often technical, they're kind of scared of working with the customers. That was a skill which really helped me actually from my management consulting world. I work with customers all the time and always relying on their feedback. So get the feedback all the time. Use user experience sessions. Before I launched the first version of PDBuddy, I did 57 user experience sessions.
Wow.
So it was like going back and forward. Especially with people with Parkinson's, I was literally watching how they even hold the phone, how they're pressing things to make sure the design is correct. So it's very important. Experimenting with different versions, different customers, and customer feedback, user feedback is so important. And reach out to this moment, the user, the market fit. Make sure you build something which people want and they are using it. Okay, and they are willing to pay for it. This is the ultimate test. This is the ultimate test. I know that in the US they don't pay attention so much to it to start with.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm not so sure if it's even right. I don't know. It depends. It's quite important, and I have learned that people will not pay for something. Either individual customers or companies, if they don't have to. They really want this product. They have to pay for it, and they have to live to it. Build something which your users are depending on it. I have built features where now people have invested in it, their own data and time. So actually, without PDBuddy, they cannot go to the doctor because all the data is on PDBuddy, right? Or they store so much information that they all have the history of it that they have to continue using. So even there is a similar company coming up, PDBuddy, they will still stick to me because they invested so much in it. So they have to use it. So focus on that, on your customers, work with them, make your product sticky, the product market fit. People want to use it, have to use it, and they will pay for it.
No, I think all the advice you just gave, it's extremely useful, especially for aspiring entrepreneurs, because like you said, a lot of people underestimate the amount of effort and work is required, but also how they should approach it. And obviously, from your experience, it takes so many iterations just to find the right footing, to find the right customer base, the right tools, the right format. People usually underestimate those type of things when they're trying to build a business, and it's very, very useful, I think, for a lot of people to learn that you had the same journey that many people who wouldn't have experienced before. So on this note, I would like to thank Beatrice for taking the time to share her experience and knowledge with what it takes to create your own company. And I really would like to thank you very much again for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alex. I really enjoyed it. It was nice chatting to you as before. And if any founder would ever want to have a chat, brainstorm, test ideas, you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to help.
Amazing. And thank you for the listeners, and I hope to catch you in our next episode. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Alex.
Bye.